But yes, as Matt said, I'm actually a Tasmanian. I moved up here 5 years ago, and for those that haven't been to Tassie, the reason I moved away is that when you're a young kid or a young adult, there really isn't a lot to do. So you've kind of got to try and find your own fun. And one of the big things that does happen down in Tassie is camping. I mean, nowadays it's wine and cheese, and if you're old enough to do that, of course that works. But when you're younger, it's camping. So you normally go off on family trips. You do camping trips to the coast when it's sunny and warm. Warm being about 25 degrees, let's be honest, it's not warm. But yeah, so my family and I used to go off on trips quite regularly. We used to do an Easter trip and a Christmas trip, and then probably somewhere in amongst there, another trip as well. But I remember the first time I got a tent was at Christmas, and that tent got set up, and I basically lived in that tent and made it my own little world for that Christmas period. But I've actually got two stories I want to tell, both on the theme of favourites, because camping was my favourite thing when I was younger. It's sort of taken a back step now because city life. And let's be honest, mod cons are great. Comfy bed, nice pillow, warm blanket, can't really go wrong. But I've got two stories, and they're both my favourite stories to tell, and they're both tragic fails about camping. So the first one was an Easter trip, and my family used to go down to this gorgeous little spot up in northern Tasmania called Greens Beach. It's basically got running water, but it all comes from tanks. There's no main sewage line. It all goes into the septic tanks and stuff like that. So it's a proper old school camping ground that you go to, and we used to go there every Easter. And it's not so much prominent up here, but Easter in Tasmania can be one of two things. It can be still like summer, or it can be like hell. And just be windy and rainy and all that kind of things. And for this particular story, it's the latter. So the days leading up to going down, been fantastic weather. Sunshine was out, everything was great. And when you're a 12-year-old, 10, 11, 12-year-old, coming up to Easter and having a week off school sounds absolutely fantastic. Kicking a footy around, just hanging out with friends, basically just doing whatever you want and not having to have a curfew is great. So we went down, set up the tents. There was normally a big group of us that went down there. There was I think about 10 or 15 families that sort of all used to go down and do the same thing at the same time. So we'd all hang out around there. But this one particular year, it turned putrid on Easter Saturday night. And we used to set up the fire pits and have all that around. We were sitting out there, and it just started to bucket down with rain. And rained and rained and rained. I think it ended up being about 30 or 40 mils in a couple of hours, which, if anybody knows the Nunda area of Brisbane, the Kedron Brook down there normally floods when you get that much rain. And so think about that much rain, but where it just soaks into the ground. And so unless you've put your tent pegs in about 6 feet, there's going to be trouble. So anyway, I got to later on in that night and the winds kicked up. And this isn't just a sort of a 20 or 30 km/h wind. These were 80 to 100 km/h winds in a tent with myself, my twin brother and my sister, who collectively probably weighed about 150 kilos, in a 6-person tent. So we ended up with what essentially was a wet sail in 80 km/h winds, and from what I've told, we got this far off the ground at 1 o'clock in the morning, and the sides of the tent are just caving in on us, and then we just get lifted up and dropped back down to the middle of the thing. And luckily enough, there was a couple of the parents of the people that we were staying with that were there that actually saw it happen. Otherwise, God knows what that story would have ended up like. But they grabbed the tent, held it down, hauled us out and over to a tent across the way, soaking wet because it was still raining so heavily. And we were just stunned because it's just how could this happen? And it's been one of those experiences that it just it should put you off camping. I didn't learn. So years after that, we still kept going. We sort of found better tents and longer pegs, but we sort of kept camping from there. And I got into my later teenage years, did the whole, let's do a festival for 3 days in a tent. Sounds like a great idea. Go and hang out with your mates, drink like have a good time, camp, do whatever you want for 3 days. Except for the next day, like the day after you get there, you drank way too much on the first day and you're cooking in a sauna. And so going on from there, I don't know if anybody's got a festival story, but if you do, it always sounds better than it is, which is why I've only ever done one Falls Festival and never gone back. But the second story was sort of after this experience as well. It's probably the last time I've gone camping. And there was this festival that was held in my town in Launceston. And it was the first time this festival had been held, and we had a few friends that went, yeah, let's do this will be great, and yada, yada, yada. And I'm like, yeah, okay, let's see how this goes. And the weather turned on us again. So it was late in August, September, and basically, again, anybody that hasn't been to Tassie, winter basically exists from about mid-February to about mid-December. So it's essentially Winterfell. Only with less White Walkers, but yeah. Maybe not. But this particular tequila festival, it was an EDM festival, so there was special types of people there to begin with. But like, there was this whole setup where they had the main stage. They had this little tent that had like DJs playing all day, and then the food and stuff was sort of in the middle. And it had been teed up to be this great new festival for Tassie and all this sort of stuff. I think it maybe about 200 people turned up. Because the day before the festival, there was a severe weather warning that came out about like hurricane condition winds or cyclone condition winds. I think it ended up being like the winds kicked up, but it was probably about 60 or 70 km an hour. It wasn't as bad as they were expecting. Still bad, not as bad as they were expecting. And the rain. So three couples of us were like staying together in this one massive tent. And it got to about 10:30 at night. The wind was coming in at like a 45 degree angle. Like you couldn't, like you literally had to walk into the rain, otherwise you're going to get blown over. And we just went, this is enough. Let's just go home. Let's call it a day. We'll come and pick the tent up tomorrow, and go from there. And so we went home. Nice warm shower, nice comfy bed. Absolutely fantastic. We got a call about 4:30 from one of our friends who was like, "You come and pick us up." It's like, what's happened? It's like, there's water in the tent and we're floating. They had like a foot's worth of water that had got trapped in the tent, and they had a blow-up mattress that had essentially become a raft. And so I think from there on out, like that's kind of my last experience with camping, and probably will be for a little while. So if there's anything I've learned from these experiences, is always go for mod cons. Nice warm comfy beds, air conditioning, heating, whatever it is, pool, go wherever you want, but book somewhere with a room. Thanks guys, cheers.